under vacuum. That's its literal translation. And what sous vide is a process that was developed in the 70s by the French, whereby you put things in a vacuum seal. That vacuum seal, that machine is called a CVAC. And it seals it all up. Just like when you go to the grocery store and you have really hard seals around like meats, you know? It's the same thing. You take that and it's boiling bag. Now you put it in what's called an immersion circulator, which is a device that regulates the temperature of a water bath down to the 10th degree. So you can dial in, you can say, I want my steak to be 135.4 degrees. And you put it in there and you let it go to 145.4 degrees, right? That's going to take about 25 to 30 minutes. Then you pull it out of the bag and open the bag, and then at that point you have two choices. You can send it immediately or you can sear it. For me, I used to do a lot of sous vide. It was very in vogue 15, 20 years ago, and it was all the rage, and I still play with it. But I don't tend to do it with steaks as much as I used to, because I find that the texture of a sous vide steak is not what I don't know if it's associative, it's not what I'm looking for in a steak. I really like the nice hard char, the sear, which you can do with the sous vide, but it requires such really high heat that it's impractical for most people. Because in order to get that really nice char, you have to have surface contact, right? Whenever you have surface contact, you're increasing the heat, which means that 135.4 that you worked so hard to get to isn't quite that anymore. And plus, I think it changes the temperature, the texture of the meat in a way that's not what I want to do. But I used to do it a lot, and I still do it. Like right now, we have a wild boar rack on the menu. I sous vide the wild boar rack because it's a tougher cut, and that sous vide helps with the tenderness. A couple of things about meat cookery that I do want to talk about while you're all eating, and I have you captive. How many of you have ever heard that you want to sear the meat to keep in the juices? Everybody's heard that, right? Okay, that's a complete falsehood. It's a lie. Science doesn't work that way. What you do want to do when you sear the meat, what you're trying to get is something called a Maillard reaction. Simply put, the browning reaction, right? And it's a very interesting phenomenon. But we talked about black garlic earlier, right? It is a fermentation, but what black garlic is a perfect example of is the Maillard reaction. It's the way things that we eat respond to direct heat. It's what makes something brown and caramelly, right, on the outside. That's the Maillard reaction. That being said, the reason it's so essential to cook on such high heat is because as soon as that meat makes contact with the grill or the saute pan, water inside of it begins rushing to the exterior of it, begins